The emergency alarm screamed through the council chambers. Ambassador Kezeth's blue skin turned pale as she rushed to her station. Around the massive circular room, beings from dozens of worlds scrambled to their positions. Something big was happening. "Report!" shouted General Vrex, his forearms typing furiously at his console. The Corton was the council's top military expert, and when he looked worried, everyone paid attention. The main screen flickered to life, showing a view of space near Earth. What they saw made no sense at all. "Sir, we're picking up over 300 human ships moving toward Earth at maximum speed," reported Lieutenant Yix, her tentacles dancing over her controls. "They're not running away from the planet. They're heading straight for it." Ambassador Kest stared at the screen. The human fleet looked angry. Their ships had their weapons powered up and ready to fire. But they weren't pointing those weapons at the approaching enemy. They were aiming them at their own homeworld. "This cannot be right," whispered Sage Alon, the elderly, ethereal representative. A ghostly form shimmered as she spoke directly into everyone's minds. "Check the readings again." The technicians checked everything twice. The readings were correct. The human fleet was racing toward Earth like they planned to attack it. For 3 weeks, the Council had been watching the drama around Earth. The Devourers were coming. Everyone in the galaxy knew what that meant. The insect-like aliens had already eaten 17 entire star systems. They consumed everything living, then moved on to the next world. Nothing had ever stopped them. Earth was supposed to be evacuated. The humans should have been running to their colony worlds with every ship they had. Instead, they were doing the exact opposite. "Look at this," said Dr. Quinn, pointing to a smaller screen. "Their colony ships that left Earth last month? They're all turning around. They're coming back." General Vrex pounded his desk with all 4 fists. "Have these mammals lost their minds? The Devourers will reach Earth in less than 4 days. This is not the time for heroic last stands." Ambassador Kest remembered the last time she had spoken with the humans. Admiral Chun had seemed calm, almost too calm. She had thanked the Council for their offer to help evacuate Earth's population. Then she had politely declined. "We appreciate the gesture," Admiral Chun had said, "but we'll handle this our own way." At the time, Kest thought the humans were just being proud. Now she wondered if they had all gone insane. "Sir," called out another technician, "we're getting energy readings from the human ships. They're charging their main weapons." The council chamber fell silent. On the screen, they watched as human warships entered Earth's atmosphere. These were big ships designed for fighting in space. They had no business flying through air. But there they were, diving toward their own cities like metal meteors. "By the void," gasped General Vrex. "They're going to bombard their own planet." Commander Zill, a reptilian being from the Outer Rim, shook his head in disbelief. "Perhaps the Devourers have some new weapon, something that controls minds from far away." "That would explain it," agreed Dr. Quinn. "The humans must be under some kind of influence. No species would attack their own homeworld unless they were forced to." But Sage Olan disagreed. Her telepathic voice touched each mind gently. "I sense no outside influence on the humans. Their thoughts are their own. Whatever they are doing, they chose to do it." That made everything even more confusing. On the screen, the first human ships reached the major cities. Bright flashes lit up the surface of Earth as their weapons fired. But something was wrong with the pattern. The explosions weren't random. They seemed carefully planned. "Those aren't bombardment patterns," observed Lieutenant Yix, studying her instruments. "They're precise. Too precise for an attack." "Then what are they doing?" demanded General Vrex. Nobody had an answer. The Council had dealt with many different species over the centuries. They had seen civilizations rise and fall. They had witnessed wars, plagues, and natural disasters. But they had never seen anything like this. A species turning their weapons on their own homeworld while an unstoppable enemy approached. The Devourers will arrive in 96 hours, reported the main tactical computer. At current speed, the human fleet will reach Earth in 18 hours. Ambassador Kezeth tried to understand human thinking. She had studied their history and culture. Humans were known for being unpredictable, but this was beyond anything in their records. They were brave, sometimes foolishly so. They never gave up, even when they should. But they weren't suicidal. Could they have a plan? She asked aloud. What kind of plan involves attacking your own planet? Scoffed Commander Zill. I don't know, admitted Kezeth. But humans have surprised us before. She remembered the war against the hegemony 20 years earlier. Everyone thought the humans would lose quickly. Instead, they had won by doing things no other species had ever tried. They attacked when they should have defended. They retreated when they should have attacked. Somehow, it had worked. We should contact them, suggested Dr. Quinn. Find out what they're thinking. General Vrex nodded. Good idea. Maybe we can talk sense into them before it's too late. The communication team tried to reach the human fleet. They sent messages on every frequency. They used emergency channels and diplomatic codes. Nothing worked. The humans weren't answering. They're jamming all communications, reported the chief communications officer. We can't get through. On the main screen, more human ships entered Earth's atmosphere. The bright flashes continued across the planet's surface. From this distance, it looked like Earth was being torn apart. But the planet's life signs remained strong. In fact, they seemed to be getting stronger. That's impossible, muttered Dr. Quinn, checking her readings. The population should be decreasing. Instead, it's growing. Growing? Asked Ambassador Kezeth. Yes, we're detecting more human life signs on Earth now than we were an hour ago. Nothing made sense anymore. The humans were attacking their own planet, but their population was increasing. They were running toward danger instead of away from it. And somehow, all their actions seemed coordinated and purposeful. The council chamber buzzed with worried conversations in dozens of languages. Representatives from across the galaxy tried to figure out what the humans were doing. None of their theories fit the evidence. Time was running out. In less than 4 days, the Devourers would arrive at Earth. When they did, they would find a planet full of humans who seemed determined to stay and fight an unwinnable war. The council is stunned, announced the speaker, his ancient voice heavy with confusion. Are they invading Earth? Have they gone mad? Nobody had an answer. They could only watch and wait as humanity rushed toward what looked like the end of their species. 24 hours had passed since the human fleet reached Earth. The council chamber had not been empty for even a moment. Representatives from across the galaxy watched the screens in growing bewilderment. What they saw defied everything they knew about war, survival, and common sense. The bombardment continues, reported Lieutenant Yix, her voice tired from lack of sleep. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, São Paulo. Every major city on Earth is being hit by their own ships. But calling it bombardment wasn't quite right anymore. The explosions were too precise, too controlled. They weren't destroying the cities. They were changing them. Dr. Quinn pulled up detailed scans of the surface. Look at these patterns. The humans aren't firing randomly. They're targeting specific locations in each city. The same types of locations every time. General Vrex studied the data with his 4 eyes. Underground facilities. They're hitting basements, sewers, subway systems. Why would they attack underground? Maybe they're building something, suggested Commander Zill. Building what? demanded the general. And why do it while the devourers are approaching? The answer came from the most unexpected source. Junior analyst Pip, barely old enough to serve on the council support staff, raised a trembling hand. "Excuse me, sirs and madams," the young being squeaked, "but I think they're making holes." The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the small analyst. "Holes?" asked Ambassador Kezeth gently. Pip nodded eagerly. "My species digs burrows for protection. The blast patterns match what we do when we need to excavate quickly. The humans aren't destroying their cities. They're digging under them." The senior officials exchanged glances. It was possible, but it raised even more questions. Digging for what? Wondered Sage Alon, her ethereal form flickering with curiosity. Before anyone could answer, new alarms began ringing. The tactical display shifted to show space around Earth. "More ships incoming," announced the tracking officer. "Human colony vessels from the outer systems. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, even private spacecraft. They're all heading for Earth." Ambassador Kezeth felt her heart sink. This was getting worse by the hour. Not only were the humans attacking their own planet, but they were bringing every ship they had back to join the madness. "How many ships total?" asked General Vrex. "Over 800 now, sir. More arriving every hour." The general's scales turned dark purple, a sign of extreme stress in his species. 800 ships flying directly into a devour feeding zone. This is mass suicide on a scale I've never seen. On the tactical display, the approaching devour swarm looked like a dark cloud spreading across space. Their bioships moved with terrible purpose, each one the size of a small moon. The swarm had been growing as it traveled, absorbing matter and energy from everything in its path. "Devour contact in 60 hours, reported the main computer. Dr. Quinn shook her head sadly. "At this rate, there will be more humans on Earth when the devourers arrive than there were before the evacuation order. They're doing the exact opposite of what any reasonable species would do." "Maybe that's the point," said a new voice. Everyone turned to see researcher Cole, one of the galaxy's leading experts on extinct civilizations. The ancient being rarely spoke, but when he did, others listened. "What do you mean?" asked Ambassador Kezeth. Researcher Cole moved to the main display with slow, careful steps. "I've studied 3,000 dead civilizations. Most died because they were predictable. They did what their enemies expected them to do." He pointed at the image of Earth. "The Devourers have consumed 17 star systems. They know how species react to their approach. Panic, evacuation, desperate last stands in space. Always the same pattern." "So you think the humans are trying to be unpredictable?" asked General Vrex. "I think they're trying to survive," replied Cole. "And survival sometimes requires insanity." The conversation was interrupted by an excited shout from one of the junior technicians. "Energy signatures!" The tech called out. "We're detecting massive power buildup on Earth's surface." The main screen shifted to show energy readings from the planet. Bright spots appeared in every major city, each one growing stronger by the hour. "Those aren't weapon signatures," observed Lieutenant Yix. "I've never seen anything like them." Dr. Quinn ran the readings through the computer. "The power levels are incredible. Each city is generating more energy than most space stations." "Energy for what?" wondered Commander Zill. They got part of the answer when the deep scan satellites picked up movement beneath Earth's surface. Massive construction projects were underway in the underground areas where the human ships had been firing. "They're building something big," reported the senior geologist. "Mechanical structures the size of city blocks, all connected by underground tunnels." Ambassador Kest tried to imagine what kind of construction project required both orbital bombardment and massive ground crews. Nothing in the galactic database matched what they were seeing. The scale is enormous, continued the geologist. Whatever they're building, it spans the entire planet. Every major population center is connected to the system. A planetary defense grid? Suggested General Vrex hopefully. If so, it's like nothing we've ever seen, replied Dr. Quinn. The energy patterns don't match any known weapon system. The hours passed slowly. More human ships arrived at Earth every few minutes. The surface construction continued around the clock, and the Devourer swarm drew steadily closer. But the strangest thing was the behavior of Earth's population. Instead of hiding in shelters or fleeing to safety, humans were actively participating in whatever was happening on the surface. We're picking up millions of individual heat signatures, reported the Life Signs Monitor. They're not taking cover. They're working. Working on what? Demanded General Vrex, his frustration growing. Unknown, sir. But they're organized, moving in coordinated groups, following some kind of plan. Ambassador Kest thought about her previous conversations with human leaders. They had always been polite but secretive. Humans preferred to solve their own problems without outside help. Sometimes that worked well for them. Other times it led to disaster. Try to contact them again, she ordered. The communications team made another attempt. This time, they got a response. But it wasn't what anyone expected. A simple text message appeared on the main screen. Council ships maintain safe distance. We know what we're doing. Admiral Chun, that's it? Ask Commander Zill. That's all they'll tell us? General Vrex growled in frustration. They know what they're doing. They're about to be devoured by the most dangerous force in the galaxy, and they think they know what they're doing? But researcher Cole looked thoughtful. Maybe they do. Humans have a saying, desperate times call for desperate measures. These aren't desperate measures, protested Dr. Quinn. These are impossible measures. No species has ever survived a devourer swarm by gathering in one place. No species has ever tried, pointed out Sage Olan. Perhaps that's exactly why it might work. The debate continued as the hours ticked by. Earth's energy readings grew stronger. More ships arrived. The construction projects expanded. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the Devourer swarm sensed the growing concentration of life on the blue planet ahead. The hunters were coming, and their prey was making itself as easy to find as possible, unless the humans really did know what they were doing. 48 hours before the Devourers would reach Earth, the Council finally had enough data to understand what the humans were building. The answer made everything even more confusing. Dr. Quinn stood before the main display, pointing at the complex diagrams her team had assembled. Based on our scans, the humans have built a planetary-scale machine. Underground conduits connect every major city. Power generators the size of skyscrapers feed energy into a global network. Ambassador Kezet studied the display carefully. What does it do? We don't know, admitted Dr. Quinn. The design doesn't match any technology in our databases. General Vrex slammed his fist on his console. How can you not know? You've been watching them build it for 2 days. The energy patterns are unlike anything we've seen, Dr. Quinn explained patiently. It's not a weapon, not a shield, not a transport system. It might not even be defensive. That caught everyone's attention. Not defensive? Ask Commander Zill. Then what's the point? Dr. Quinn looked uncomfortable. Some of our readings suggest it might be designed to enhance the planet's natural properties, making Earth more attractive to certain types of life forms. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Sage Alan was the first to speak. You're suggesting they're preparing their world to be consumed more efficiently? It's one possibility, Dr. Quinn said reluctantly. The modifications to Earth's electromagnetic field would make the planet's energy signature much stronger. Any species that feeds on bioelectric energy would find Earth irresistible. Like the Devourers, whispered Lieutenant Yix. The thought was horrible. Had the humans actually been infected somehow? Were they preparing their own world as a feast for the galaxy's most dangerous predators? But researcher Cole shook his ancient head. The theory doesn't fit. If humans were being controlled, we would see different behavior patterns. Confusion, conflict, resistance from unaffected populations. Instead, we see perfect coordination. Maybe they're all affected, suggested Commander Zill. Impossible, replied Cole firmly. 12 billion humans across hundreds of worlds, all falling under the same influence at the same time? The Devourers don't have that kind of power. Then what's your theory? Demanded General Vrex. Cole moved to another display showing Earth's defensive preparations. Look at these patterns. Food stockpiles in underground bunkers. Medical facilities hardened against electromagnetic pulses. Evacuation tunnels leading away from major cities. These aren't the preparations of a species planning to surrender. Then what are they planning? Asked Ambassador Kezeth. Something we've never seen before, replied Cole. Something that requires their entire species to take a terrible risk. The debate was interrupted by urgent alarms. The long-range sensors had detected something new. Multiple contacts, reported the tracking officer. Coming from the human outer colonies. Military vessels, but not the usual design. The main screen shifted to show space near Earth. A new group of ships was approaching, but these looked different from the ones they'd seen before. They were larger, stranger, built for purposes that weren't immediately clear. What are those things? Wondered Lieutenant Yix. The new ships had odd bulges and projections. Their hulls were covered with equipment that looked more scientific than military. As they drew closer, the sensors revealed their true nature. Those aren't warships, breathed Dr. Quinn. They're research vessels. Modified for deep space observation. Research vessels? General Vrex looked puzzled. Why bring research ships to a battle? Unless this isn't going to be a battle, said researcher Cole quietly. The new ships took up positions around Earth's outer system. Their powerful sensors turned toward the approaching Devour swarm, but they weren't preparing to fight. They were preparing to watch. This gets stranger every hour, muttered Commander Zill. But the strangest discovery came from Earth itself. The planetary construction project was nearly complete, and the final pieces revealed its true scope. The energy conduits don't just connect the major cities, Dr. Quinn reported. They form a geometric pattern across the entire planet, like a giant circuit board. The pattern was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Viewed from space, Earth looked like a massive technological device rather than a living world. The energy flowing through the underground network created patterns of light that could be seen even through the planet's atmosphere. It's not just a machine, whispered Sage Olan. It's turning the entire planet into a machine. The revelation sent shockwaves through the council chamber. They had witnessed many civilizations, but none had ever attempted to transform their entire homeworld into a single device. We have to do something, declared Ambassador Kezeth. We can't just watch an entire species commit suicide. What would you suggest? Asked General Vrex grimly. Send our fleet to fight the Devourers? We barely have enough ships to evacuate one city. We could try to evacuate some of the humans, suggested Dr. Quinn. 12 billion people? Scoffed Commander Zill. In 36 hours? Impossible. Maybe a few million, pressed Dr. Quinn. The children, at least. Researcher Cole turned from his studies. They won't go. Humans don't abandon their plans easily, especially when they believe those plans will work. But this plan is insane, exploded General Vrex. No species has ever defeated the Devourers by making themselves easier to find. That we know of, corrected Cole. The Devourers have been active for thousands of years. Maybe some species tried unusual tactics. We just never heard about them because there were no survivors to tell the story. The grim possibility hung in the air. How many civilizations had tried desperate gambits against the Devourers? How many had failed and been forgotten? Incoming transmission from Earth, announced the communications officer suddenly. Everyone turned toward the main screen as Admiral Chun's face appeared. She looked tired but determined. Her uniform was dirty, as if she'd been working alongside the construction crews. "Council representatives," she began formally. "I know you're worried about our actions. I appreciate your concern for our species." "Admiral," interrupted Ambassador Kezada quickly, "please tell us what you're planning. Maybe we can help." Admiral Chun smiled sadly. "You're good people, Ambassador. But this is something we have to do ourselves. Your ships should maintain a safe distance of at least 100,000 kilometers from Earth." "Admiral, the Devourers will be there in 36 hours, pleaded Dr. Quinn. "Whatever you're building, it can't possibly be worth the lives of 12 billion humans." "We'll see about that," replied Admiral Chun. "Humanity has faced extinction before. We've always found a way to survive. This time won't be different." "But the odds," began General Rex, "have never stopped us before." Admiral Chun cut him off. "Goodbye, Council friends. Whatever happens, know that we chose this path freely." The transmission ended, leaving the Council chamber in stunned silence. They had less than 2 days to decide whether to trust humanity's desperate plan or try to intervene somehow. But as they watched Earth's energy patterns grow stronger and more complex, one thing became clear. The humans weren't just preparing to meet the Devourers. They were preparing to do something no species had ever attempted before. Whether it would save them or doom them remained to be seen. 8 hours before the Devourer swarm would reach Earth, everything finally made sense. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Junior Analyst Pip, the same young being who had first suggested the humans were digging holes, was studying Earth's energy patterns when she noticed something strange. "The frequency is wrong," she announced to the exhausted Council chamber. Dr. Quinn looked up from her console with bleary eyes. "What frequency?" "The energy pulses from Earth," Pip explained excitedly. "I've been watching them for hours. They're not random. They're following a specific pattern. And the pattern is familiar." She brought up a new display showing wavelengths and frequencies. "Look at this. The energy signature matches something in our historical database." The display shifted to show old records from a battle that happened centuries ago. Ancient ships, primitive weapons, and one very specific energy signature. "Gravitational pulse weapons," breathed Lieutenant Yix. "But those were banned after the Nexus War. Too dangerous." Pip nodded eagerly. "But these readings are much stronger than anything from the war. And the source isn't a ship. It's the entire planet." The revelation hit the chamber like a shock wave. Ambassador Kest stared at the data with growing understanding. "They're turning Earth into a weapon." General Vrex's forearms stopped moving over his console. "That's impossible. Gravitational pulse weapons require massive amounts of energy and precise control. No planet-based system could generate that kind of power. Unless the entire planet was designed to be the weapon," suggested researcher Cole quietly. Dr. Quinn was already running calculations. The underground network, the energy generators, the modifications to Earth's electromagnetic field. If they're all working together, they could create a gravitational pulse large enough to affect an entire star system, finished Sage Alan, her ethereal form flickering with amazement. But Commander Zill wasn't convinced. Even if they could build such a weapon, how would they aim it? Gravitational pulses spread in all directions. They'd destroy themselves along with the Devourers. Maybe that's the plan, suggested General Rex grimly. Take the enemy with them when they die. No, said researcher Cole firmly. Humans don't think that way. They're survivors. If they're building a weapon, they expect to live to use it again. The argument was interrupted by new sensor readings. The Devour swarm had reached the edge of Earth's solar system, and their behavior was revealing. The bioships are changing formation, reported the tracking officer. They're converging on Earth from all directions. Standard feeding pattern. On the main display, the Devour swarm looked like a dark cloud surrounding Earth. Hundreds of massive bioships moved with terrible purpose. Each one was a living creature the size of a small moon, evolved specifically to consume entire worlds. They can sense the energy signatures from Earth, observed Dr. Quinn. The planet looks like the biggest meal they've ever found, which means the humans succeeded in making Earth irresistible. To them, said Ambassador Kezeth. But why? The answer came in the form of a new transmission from Earth. This time, it wasn't Admiral Chun who appeared on the screen. It was a young human technician, speaking quickly and urgently. Council observers, this is Director Walsh from the Earth Defense Project. We're about to begin final preparations. You need to move your ships to minimum safe distance immediately. Director Walsh, called out Ambassador Kest. Please explain what you're planning. Maybe we can help. Walsh shook her head. No time for explanations. Just trust us. And whatever you do, don't try to interfere. If you disrupt our timing, everyone dies. The transmission cut off before anyone could ask more questions. Final preparations for what? Demanded General Rex. His answer came from Earth itself. The energy readings from the planet suddenly spiked to incredible levels. The underground network that had taken days to build was coming online all at once. Power output is increasing exponentially, reported Dr. Quinn. The entire planet is charging up like a massive capacitor. Through the advanced sensors, they could see movement on Earth's surface. Millions of humans were taking positions at specific locations around the globe. They weren't hiding in bunkers or fleeing to safety. They were actively participating in whatever was about to happen. Look at those positions, observed Lieutenant Yix. They're arranging themselves in geometric patterns, like components in a vast machine. Because that's exactly what they are, realized researcher Cole. The humans aren't just building a weapon. They're becoming part of it. The implications were staggering. An entire species working together as a single organism, using their homeworld as a weapon platform. It was beyond anything the Council had ever imagined. The Devourers are in position, announced the tracking officer. They're beginning their descent to Earth's atmosphere. On the tactical display, the bioships moved like hungry predators. They had done this thousands of times before. Surround the planet, land on the surface, consume everything living, then move on. It was a process that had never failed. But as the first Devour ships entered Earth's atmosphere, something unexpected happened. The planet's energy output stabilized at a specific frequency. The humans on the surface raised their hands toward the sky, and Earth began to sing. It wasn't a sound that could be heard through space. It was a gravitational resonance that traveled through the fabric of reality itself. The planet was generating a precise, controlled gravitational pulse that spread outward in a perfect sphere. By the void, whispered General Rex. They're not just using gravitational weapons. They're using the planet's own gravity well as an amplifier. The first Devour ships to enter the pulse field began to shake and convulse. Their living hulls, evolved to absorb energy and matter, found themselves caught in a feedback loop. Instead of consuming Earth's energy, they were being torn apart by it. It's working, breathed Dr. Quinn. The gravitational pulses are disrupting their biological processes. But the most amazing part was still to come. The humans on Earth's surface weren't just passive components of their planetary weapon. They were actively adjusting its focus in real time. As Devour ships tried to avoid the worst effects of the gravitational field, human observers on the ground tracked their movements and modified the weapon's output accordingly. They're using their entire population as a targeting system, marveled Sage Olan. 12 billion minds working together to aim a planet-sized weapon. Impossible, muttered Commander Zill. No species could coordinate that many individuals. Humans can, said researcher Cole with growing admiration. They've been practicing for their entire evolutionary history. Every time they faced extinction, they learned to work together better. This is just the ultimate expression of that ability. More Devourer ships fell from the sky, their biohulls torn apart by gravitational forces they couldn't understand or resist. The swarm that had consumed 17 star systems was being destroyed by a single planet and its inhabitants. The Council is stunned, announced the speaker, his ancient voice filled with awe. They're not invading Earth. They're not mad. They're saving the galaxy. The battle for Earth lasted exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. The Council watched from their safe distance as the most destructive force in the galaxy met the most stubborn species they had ever encountered. What happened next would be talked about for centuries. The Devourer swarm descended on Earth like a living storm. Bioships the size of mountains filled the sky, their hunger driving them toward what appeared to be the greatest feast in their long history. The planet below pulsed with energy signatures unlike anything they had consumed before. But as the first wave of Devourers entered Earth's atmosphere, they discovered that this meal would fight back. The gravitational pulse hit them like an invisible hammer. Ships that had survived the destruction of entire star systems suddenly found their hulls buckling and tearing. The bioships were evolved to absorb energy, but Earth's weapon fed them so much power so quickly that their biological systems couldn't process it. Multiple Devourer ships down, reported Lieutenant Yix, her voice filled with amazement. They're falling like meteors. But the swarm was vast. For every ship that fell, 10 more pressed forward. The Devourers had never encountered resistance like this, but they had consumed worlds before by sheer numbers. They would overwhelm Earth's defenses through mass attack. That was when the humans revealed the true genius of their plan. From the surface of Earth, 12 billion human beings began working together in perfect harmony. They weren't just operating a weapon. They had become the weapon. Each person served as a sensor node in the largest targeting computer ever created. Incredible, whispered Dr. Quinn. They're tracking individual Devour ships and adjusting the gravitational field in real time. The gravitational pulses became focus beams, striking specific targets with surgical precision. Bioships that tried to escape found the energy field following them like a hunter. Those that attempted to land were met with concentrated bursts that tore them apart before they could touch the ground. But the most stunning aspect was the coordination. 12 billion minds working as one, sharing information instantly across the planet's surface. When Devour ships attacked one city, humans on the opposite side of the world adjusted their portion of the weapon to help defend it. How are they communicating so quickly? Wondered Commander Zill. Researcher Cole had been studying the energy patterns. They're using the gravitational field itself as a communication network. Every human on the planet is connected through the weapon they built. Ambassador Kezeth watched in fascination as the battle unfolded. The Devourers were learning, adapting their tactics, trying new approaches. But for every change they made, the humans responded faster. The planet weapon evolved and improved with each passing minute. The second wave is breaking off, reported the tracking officer. Some of the bioships are trying to retreat, but there would be no retreat. The humans had spent 2 days making sure Earth was irresistible to the Devourers. Now that the bioships were committed to the attack, the planet's gravitational field held them like a trap. "They can't escape," observed General Vrex with grim satisfaction. "Earth-modified gravity won't let them reach escape velocity." The battle became a slaughter. Devourer ships that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia found themselves helpless against an enemy they couldn't understand. Their biohulls, designed to absorb and process organic matter, were being overloaded with pure energy. Their sensory organs, evolved to locate living worlds, were being blinded by Earth's overwhelming bioelectric signature. One by one, the massive bioships fell from the sky. Some burned up in Earth's atmosphere. Others crashed into the ocean or empty land. A few managed to reach the surface intact, only to be torn apart by focused gravitational beams before they could begin feeding. "The third wave is fragmenting," reported Lieutenant Yix. "The remaining bioships are losing formation. The Devourers were learning what every predator eventually discovers. Sometimes the prey fights back, but even as they watched the bioships fall, the Council observers noticed something else. The humans on Earth's surface weren't celebrating. They maintained their positions, kept their focus, continued working together with machine-like precision. "Why aren't they cheering?" asked Dr. Quinn. "They're winning." "Because it's not over yet," replied Researcher Cole. "Look at the deep space sensors." The display shifted to show the outer edges of the solar system. More bioships were arriving. Not just a few stragglers, but an entire second swarm. The Devourers had called for reinforcements. "By the void," gasped General Vrex. "There must be 1,000 ships out there." For a moment, it looked like humanity's desperate gambit would fail. No weapon, no matter how powerful, could destroy that many targets. Even Earth's incredible gravitational pulses would eventually weaken under such sustained assault. But the humans had one more surprise. The research ships that had been positioned around Earth's outer system suddenly came alive. Their sensors, which had been passively observing the battle, switched to active mode. Energy beams lanced out from each vessel, but they weren't aimed at the DEVOURERS. They were aimed at Earth. "What are they doing?" demanded Commander Zill. "They're boosting the signal," realized Dr. Quinn. "The research ships are amplifying Earth's gravitational field." The effect was immediate and devastating. Earth's gravitational pulses, already powerful enough to destroy individual bioships, became strong enough to tear apart entire formations. The planet's weapon reached out across millions of kilometers, turning Earth's entire star system into a killing field. The second Devourer swarm lasted less than an hour, when the last bioship fell silent. Earth's energy output gradually decreased to normal levels. The humans on the surface finally allowed themselves to move from their positions. And across the planet, 12 billion voices rose in a cheer that could be felt through the gravitational field itself. "They did it," whispered Ambassador Kest. "They actually did it." The impossible had happened. A single species, working together on their homeworld, had destroyed the most dangerous force in the galaxy. They had done it not by running away, not by hiding, but by turning their entire planet into a weapon and themselves into its operators. "The galaxy is safe," announced the speaker, his ancient voice filled with wonder. "The Devourer swarm has been completely destroyed." But General Vrex was studying the tactical displays with a thoughtful expression. "Not just destroyed, eliminated. Every bioship in this system is dead. The Devourers can't regenerate from this loss." "You mean," began Dr. Quinn. "The threat is over," confirmed General Vrex. "Completely over. The Devourers are extinct." The news spread through the council chamber like wildfire. Representatives from dozens of species began celebrating in their own ways. The nightmare that had haunted the galaxy for thousands of years was finally ended. On the main screen, Earth hung peacefully in space. Its surface was scarred from the construction projects and the battle itself, but the planet was very much alive. 12 billion humans were already beginning the work of rebuilding, cleaning up, and returning to their normal lives. Ambassador Kezeth smiled as she watched. The council was stunned. We thought they were invading Earth. We thought they had gone mad. But they weren't mad at all. They were just being human. And in the end, that had made all the difference.